What is up, coffee makers? Get comfortable because I'm about to spill the tea, or should I say coffee. I'm Lindsey Mastis, and as a four-time Emmy award-winning journalist and emerging tech expert, I look for the stories that are about to change everything. Today, I am here to discuss the lines we're crossing in the digital age and the insights that I gained while filming my latest mini doc-style news feature where I interviewed Roseanne Cash and Jackson Browne. You've heard the rumors. Now let's talk about the facts. My thoughts are brewing right here on the Cyber Coffee Hour.
All right, what's good, coffee makers, not coffee takers? You're locked into the Cyber Coffee Hour, where we brew up insights and community in the digital world. I'm the People's Chief, Dr. Joseph J. Burt-Miller Jr., and he's the one and only Master of Cyber Farms, Alfredzo B. Nash Jr. We both hail from the legendary streets of Mount Vernon, New York, where we're coming to you live and direct from the DMV area. We're locked in to share the incredible stories and experiences of our amazing guests. Our mission is straightforward: to share knowledge, understanding, and foster a vibrant community within the vast realm of cyberspace. So grab your coffee mug and let's brew. So for today's show, we'll have a coffee chat with AI and tech storyteller and keynote speaker Lindsey Mastis from Blue Moves Media. Now, Lindsey Mastis is an award-winning journalist and an expert on AI and emerging technology. During her 20-year career in TV news, she received 4 Emmy Awards and is a recipient of a regional Edward R. Murrow Award. She's covered everything from mass shootings to robots on Capitol Hill. And she just debuted a mini documentary-style news feature called Is AI Ruining Music?, featuring Roseanne Cash, Jackson Browne, DJ CherishTheLuv, and a host of others. You can watch it now on her YouTube channel. Lindsey Mastis, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Lindsey, let me stop that.
No.
So Lindsey, as we spoke before, big fan, I have to say, because waking up early in the morning, so before I left out for work, I watch you on TV, and always kind of get my day started, especially as you cover the AI and tech pieces. This is a surreal moment for me because have you now on the Cyber Coffee Hour is pretty awesome. So again, just want to thank you for being on, and just want to learn like what's been the latest for you. Just how things have been going so far.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Well, first of all, I appreciate you waking up so early in the morning. I am no longer waking up that early in the morning. I used to have to wake up at 2 a.m. for that shift. And I loved being the person who could bring you the tech stories of the day. But I have to admit, I am enjoying getting a little bit more sleep nowadays. And I am focusing a lot more on AI and tech. And it used to be part of my day. Now it's all of my day.
Yeah. All right. Alfredzo, how about you, sir? How are you?
So far, so good. I'm really trying to get used to this season and balancing out. So I'm training as a master naturalist, as I said on the other episodes, and really it's difficult balancing that work and other side of this activity with another volunteer org. I'll put the names out. So first, the naturalist group is University of Maryland Extension Master Naturalist Training, and the other side of this work is Maryland Defense Force. So I am a Defense Force member serving the state of Maryland. And it's very difficult balancing that with all those two organizations with work. So as the fall comes around, I'm really trying to figure out how to get enough hours for both and still keep the coffee brewing.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I am going to be trying to get back into the wilderness a little bit more and help out some of the other naturalists.
Gotcha. Sounds good, man. Sounds good. As for me, I still empathize with my fellow government employees out there as we're still dealing with the shutdown right now. So it is, in a way, giving me more time to handle other tasks. But just taking it in stride. Just still doing the things I do, hitting the gym, stuff like that, studying, all that. But and also, I'll have to tell you, I watched Game 1 of the Yankees Blue Jays yesterday, and Yankees got demolished, and
Oh yeah,
I did not feel good about it. Yeah, no, it didn't make me feel good. So hopefully today, Game 2 is today late this afternoon. So hopefully we'll bounce back. So I'm looking forward to that. But we'll go ahead and get started. Lindsey, given your deep dive into the topic, how are creators, lawyers, and platforms struggling to navigate the rapid growth of generative AI? And in your view, is the industry truly at a crossroads where we do have to ask, is AI ruining music?
Oh, yeah. It's such an interesting topic. So, AI is coming at us full speed ahead, right? And at this stage, there needs to be more education. I just went to an event over the weekend called AI Unlocked, and one of the days was geared toward families. And I'm walking around and I'm seeing all of these activities for kids. And a lot of these kids are already getting hands on experience, not just with generative AI, but with machine learning, with so many different aspects of artificial intelligence and emerging technology. And the Louis Armstrong song, What a Wonderful World, popped in my head.
Yeah.
And that line about these children are going to learn much more than I'll ever know. And I thought to myself, we're actually all children right now. It doesn't matter your age. We are children who don't know what we need to know about AI and emerging tech. And so we're all having to get an education, no matter what industry you are in. And there are some industries that are not touched by AI as much as others, but it doesn't matter workplace. I mean, you could go to the doctor and the doctors are coming in now saying, hey, I'm recording this so that our AI note taker can put notes in your medical record. So it doesn't matter if your profession is intertwined with AI, you're going to come across it in everyday life.
Right.
What I am really seeing is this scramble, not just to educate ourselves, but to also confront ethics. Right. Like, I mean, it's literally a confrontation between how do we feel about the world and about our place in the world and how AI might impact our own ethical structure, right? We all have these like rules that we've made up for ourselves of like, well, this is cheating or this is crossing the line. And with AI, it's blurring a lot of things. So when we talk about it in a music context, especially when you're talking to musicians or industry leaders who create materials for musicians, there is a huge concern that musicians that are already struggling, it's already really hard for most musicians to make a living, are going to essentially not get a chance at all because of AI. That's the concern. But then I also hear from people who say, actually, it's a tool. It's going to help me out as a musician, or even a company saying, we think that we can incorporate this into what we're doing to help our human musicians. So what I did with the Is AI Ruining Music segment, I earlier this year went to the largest music conference in the United States. It's called NAMM, and it's in Anaheim, California. It's a 3-day, or I was there for 3 of the days. And it is supposed to be for the music industry, like the actual organizations that like maybe sell instruments or software, that type of thing. And I asked, is AI ruining music, to so many of these people, companies, musicians, even as you mentioned, Jackson Browne, Roseanne Cash, DJ CherishTheLuv, and each one of them has an opinion about what's happening in the industry, but also some of them have used it. Like Jackson Browne said, hey, we actually used AI for what's called stem separation in a song that he was working on an album that's out now. But basically they were having some issues where maybe there was like a bleed over or something where you could kind of hear like an instrument in a track. There was something not right.
Right.
And, they had, with AI, they could actually separate like the guitar from the drums, from the vocals, and then make a fix on something that wasn't correct. So that was really brilliant because it might have been something that would have been lost. But on the other hand, you have people who are saying, doing this at all is, a violation of our ethics, all this. So it's such a big conversation right now. And I really wanted to capture that moment in time. I did not go to this conference thinking that that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I had just been at CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and the AI and marketing was everywhere. And then
Wow.
almost 2 weeks later, I go to NAMM and there's no AI mentioned anywhere. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like everywhere you go, it's like, this has AI in it. And it's like, okay, like, does it need to have AI in it? Does my washing machine need to take phone calls? Like, no. But it was just weird, like walking into this industry and seeing like a backlash to it. So I ended up kind of in the moment embracing it a little bit more, like leaning into that question. So that's where that came about. But it's right now, I think there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of testing the waters. There's a lot of people who are very ethical people who are afraid to dive into artificial intelligence and emerging technology because they're ethical. Like it's
Right.
actually a good thing that they're holding back because it means that they do care about how it's impacting humanity.
So, so there was a recent movie, Denzel Washington's recent movie, Highest to Lowest. So he plays a music. He's like a big time music mogul, music producer, and he's at a crossroads where I know the main plot, like he's trying to save his well, for one, he thought someone kidnapped his son, but it turned out his son's friend. But the main part of it too, I guess another subplot part was he's at a crossroads where he's getting ready to sell his company. Well, he's trying to revive his company because he's battling against AI. You know, the music industry is going towards AI, more AI focused, but he's more old school. He believes in actually listening to the artists, like having a ear for hearing good artists and good music. So it was interesting you mentioned that and talking about doing that piece of this AI rooted in music, because yeah, I think with in all different concepts where or applications, AI can be looked at as a tool, something to enhance what we're doing, but then it can go to it can go far right where we're using too much of it and it's almost replacing the things that we're doing. So now it's not so much a tool, now it's just actually replacing skilled people, whatever the case may be. So I thought that was a very interesting take. I guess Alfredo, like, what are your thoughts?
I agree along the same lines. It's a little bit of confusion, and I'm in the gray. And I say that on purpose because this is for the ethical hackers, right? There are folks that are going to feel a little confused or off put, like myself. I'll use myself. The health thing where my kids actually had their health data recorded. And I actually pushed back. I was like, hey, listen, that's being a technologist, I don't really trust that. Like, where is it going? What stats are going anywhere? And then there's a lack of human. I mean, I know it enhances the practitioner's job to know certain things about the patient, but I didn't trust where it was going. So I had one of those moments like,
Right.
hold on, maybe we should draw a line, like get the third party team in, tell me where it's being stored. Can it be compromised? Can my kids' information wind up in these data brokers? Because we've seen a generation of that now. So to your point, I'm on the fence. I'm one of those folks like, yeah, this is coming into an ethical type situation and it should be tested. Because I never believed in garbage in, garbage out. So AI has that same issue that if you put enough garbage in there, it's going to come out with unethical situations, and it's going to be weaponized. I hate to say it that way. You heard it here first on the Cyber Coffee Hour. That backhaul of data, it could be weaponized. Deep fakes is still out here.
Oh yeah.
Corruptions. Imagine deep faking a pop artist. We got Bad Bunny in the situation now. Imagine that he goes 2027. It's a complete AI model that deep fakes that show. Right, that's what we're dealing with and it should lead to particular bans and uses of AI because you're right, ethically, compassion wise, psychology, all those things are sensitive to the human touch. Literally, AI should not be leveraged as a tool. It should be somewhere in the back end, and then quality enhancement should happen first before it's released as a tool to some of these practitioners. But again, cyber brain. So I got to find out where that, get my human touch back and say, all right, where are these things? Where are these tools being leveraged? Where it's sensitive to the human touch? Like it needs empathy. It needs almost like a surgeon to qualify the data before it's released.
Right.
So
Lindsey, you've done extensive reporting on AI and emerging technology. So for someone who might feel overwhelmed or intimidated by the topic, what's the one key takeaway you wanted to understand about its real?
Well, it's what we make of it, right? So if AI ends up in the wrong hands, it's going to hurt. But if you are someone who is ethical, if you're a little bit nervous about getting into it, it probably means you're ethical. It probably means you are the one who should get into AI and learn the tools. And we do have, like, on the cyber security realm, we have, ethical hackers that are saying, okay, let's use AI to fight AI, because the bad guys, they do not care. Right? They're going to use every tool out there. They're not going to say, what is the ethics of this? Is it really a fair fight if I use this AI to weaponize data and then go and drain the bank accounts of all of these people that I don't know because, we have our own criminal enterprise that we are trying to withhold? uphold here. And yeah, they don't mind using it. So the people who are afraid to use it, we're a little bit behind. We have to get caught up. We need to make sure there's an education of how to use these tools so that the people who want to use them for nefarious purposes, that game of cat and mouse that we have going between cyber criminals and the people trying to fight cybercrime, that that more good people have that sword versus the people who are trying to use it to defraud others.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, go ahead, Alfredzo.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go back. You're right. The greatest, I guess, form of encouragement that we have is just someone that's going to willingly stop the person using the sword and be the shield. While we still have that particular mindset that these adversaries are, yes, going to drain bank accounts, compromise hospitals, let's just be realistic, schools, places of worship. You got to realize that folks that are ethical are saying that's wrong, and they're going to show up to stop it, hopefully. But as we get outpaced with this emerging technology, like, we have to go back to, like you said, a childlike mentality. I put myself in their shoes while I defend the defenders, because it's very difficult. Me, as I get older, I don't have the faculties to relearn another emerging trend. I'm kind of feeling like, oh my God, I'm gonna be 80 talking about, blue team and AI.
But here's the thing, though, it's not necessarily a trend, right? In this case, I think it's here to stay. But like you said,
it's emerging technology.
I'm the same way. It's like, okay, if something's a trend and it's, a year from now, I'm not even going to be thinking about it anymore. Why am I using so much brain space on it? But in this particular case, there's going to be some like foundational knowledge that will be important. So no matter what you do, if you learn this foundation, you kind of get how this works or that works, you can then take that and do the next application of protecting people. But you have to get started somewhere, right? So we have a lot of backlash on the more like creative part of AI. I mean, there is a concern about it taking over artist jobs and musicians' jobs and things like that. But then we also have where gaming and and the creative arts is what teaches a lot of us artificial intelligence, right? Like I might understand more about what generative AI is if I have it create an image for me, right? But then I feel like ethically, I'm like, but wait a minute, what data was it trained on? And is this taking art from someone who, is a true artist and they didn't say yes to this? But if I don't learn this way, maybe this is how I learn. So it really brings up a lot of those questions. So it's like, how can you learn and get to a point where you're going to use this to benefit humanity? Like what has to happen? And just not diving in is not the answer. Because so many people are like, well, I'm only going to have it generate something if it's truly worthwhile. Okay, well, when that moment comes and you know nothing about prompt engineering and you know nothing about what happens when you ask it to do this, or what kind of guardrails should be in that prompt or in the back end, then we're at a disadvantage when we actually need it. It's almost like in sports. Can you imagine being like, we're going to go play the big one, the big game, but we're not going to do any type of warm-ups or training or practice leading up
You
to
asking
that.
for trouble there.
We're just gonna go straight to the Super Bowl. We'll be fine.
Okay.
49-0.
Right. So that's why we have to have something that gets us into it, makes us feel more comfortable with it, where we're having fun and learning at the same time. If it's something that's not fun for us, it's going to be hard to learn it. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I surprisingly had some of the most fun doing a red teaming event.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have thought that. I would think, okay, red teaming events should be very stressful or hard, like puzzles that you're trying to figure out. And I used a lot of the knowledge I have from having a series on online scams for years. And I applied that knowledge to this red teaming event. The red teaming event was focused on breaking an LLM and doing so in a way that a lot of those like online scam tactics actually worked in this scenario. And all these scenarios, there are several scenarios. And I was very surprised at what I was willing to do to try to like win, but also realize that I'm someone with ethics. Can you imagine what someone's willing to do who doesn't have any?
Yeah,
So it was eye-opening. Yeah, very eye-opening for me from a cyber AI standard.
I was just going to say, I think it's very important that we do have that education element, because there are a lot of people that will look to AI maybe unknowingly giving up very pertinent, important information or private information just because they want to use that latest iteration or some sort of AI tool or different apps or whatever the case may be, and they see they may see the fun side of it, but don't realize, okay, you're not really thinking critically when it comes to using these different AI tools or apps or whatever it is. So
Right?
yeah,
Because
I
it's
think
so hard. It makes it so hard, right? Because like you need to learn the tools, but like what's safe?
They
right,
do that. They
right,
do that with early adoption every time. So the investors get in, multiple orgs get in. It's like the gold rush moment, and then they're like, wait a second, we don't have a framework, or we don't have risk, we don't have not even just the tech side. Because I keep saying this. I kind of guess I'm getting like the the iRobot scene with Will Smith, and he's like, get off my lawn, robot, But I'm getting to that moment too where it's like, well, hold up. Why don't we consider this in the beginning of adapting, whatever AI? I don't see enough. I keep shouting out drop zone AI. I wish there was more of those. I've only seen one defensive besides before AI too. We had Luigi on. I've never seen another defensive AI platform, to your point before. Where is the AI to combat like you said, the person that's trained in unethical AI? Right.
right,
Right now, like that's a learning moment, that's an aha moment. But then I don't see that people like, oh, that's not going to happen. And wait a minute, that's happened in cloud, that's happened in all these other advanced technologies. Why is AI getting a pass?
right, right.
So that takes us into a good segue, right? You said your career has taken you from local news desk to the front lines of historical national events. What's one story one story that you covered that profoundly changed your perspective on journalism or the world?
There's a lot. I was thinking about this because I'm like, okay, I got to pick one, right? And it's hard. But for this past week, there is a story that I did really early in my career that I've just been thinking a lot about lately, a lot. And this was in the early 2000s. And this was back at a time when the media covered every single death that we had during the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Mm.
And I remember being a very, very young journalist. And someone in our town had been killed in Iraq.
Sorry to hear
And
that.
I had to find the family. And, in journalism, especially if you're a general assignment reporter, a local news, it's your job to talk to families who are facing the worst day of their life, the worst tragedies. And you have to realize how important it is to bring honor to their stories, to make sure that the family is getting out information about their loved one that they want everyone to know about. They want everyone to know how amazing their loved one was. And also realize that in putting out this information, there are people that are going to come and help. And you may never know it as a journalist, right? So you might put a story out, this awful thing happened to this family, and they're talking about their loved one. There's someone who's watching that, who either has gone through it or has some type of resource, who's touched by that story or that family, or finds something that maybe they have similar or something in common, and they go out of their way to help in ways that maybe I've never been privy to. Because they don't usually call up the news media and say, oh, I saw your story, and because of that, I reached out to the family. They just go straight to the family or straight to the church or straight to whoever's helping the family. And a lot of good can come out of it. But it is very daunting to drive to someone's house and walk up to their door and knock and have a camera by your side and say, would you like to talk about your loved one and about what happened? And I've always seen it as a sign of respect. We're living in a different day and age now. Communication is a lot different. This is back when, we had paper maps, when you may not exactly know where somebody lives exactly. You can't just look it up on some database. But it was always, I felt, a sign of respect to go there physically. You don't call. You are there physically. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's showing respect. Like, I'm here for you. I'm part of the media. If you would like to share, we are here. And so I keep thinking of this family, Kyle Price, who had passed, and I went to their home. And I don't remember knocking on the door. I think somebody might have been out front. I think it was his stepdad, which I'm going to say dad, because that was the relationship. It was dad. I'm not sure what to say. Like I went through journalism training, but they don't tell you what to say.
Right.
They don't really tell you, hey, you're going to have to do this. So I went up and I explained who I was, and do you want to? I don't know what I asked. I don't know if I said, do you want to give an on-camera interview or what? But this family invited me in, and they all sat on the couch. They held hands, and one by one, I just clipped a little microphone on, I think dad first, mom, and then one by one the kids, all of the siblings. And I actually watched them grow in strength. Like I watched their resilience and get stronger throughout the interview, especially as they talked about how the contributions that Kyle made, not just to the country, because obviously we all understood the sacrifice he made, but to his community and to his family especially. Like you really see how special this person was. And, when I put the story together, I actually felt good that there was going to be some good that came out of it. And in the preceding years, or the years following, I should say, they ended up doing a yearly fundraiser. They helped raise money for scholarships, for veterans, for several different organizations. And I would have the dad back on our program live pretty much every year to promote it and get the whole community out. And so I keep thinking, bad things happen, things that we cannot control, or in cases of war. I wish so badly that we didn't have war, period. It would be great if everybody could get along at all times. But seeing that good can always come out of something truly tragic and awful, I still don't want anything bad to happen. But if there's nothing you can do, if there's some way to have just some way to change the world for better, right? I want to be part of that. And so I don't know why they've been on my mind so much these past probably couple of weeks. I just keep thinking about them and thinking about that story and different stories that I've done throughout my career. That'll happen. There's probably something I'm thinking about every day of the week that I've covered at some point. And I may not know why it's coming up in my mind or why I'm fixating on it. But I think in some ways I'm still trying to work out why some of these tragedies happen. And I just had a conversation this week as well about autonomous driving. And as somebody who's been in TV news for 20 years, I have been to more fatal car crashes than I can count. I have no idea how many I've been to. When I was in Tampa, I was in charge of, if we went up in the morning, I was in the helicopter and I would be the one with the camera. It's kind of like a remote control system. It's pretty cool. Like it looks like you're playing like a video game with like the most complicated controller ever. And hovering over some of these tragic scenes and trying to make sure that you could see the traffic back up and you could see where they're blocking the road, but making sure that the graphic part is not getting on air. But I still saw it. And those first responders are there seeing it and are having to be the ones to tell their family, and just really tragic things. Yeah. When it comes to like AI and that type of technology, people push back all the time. They don't trust AI or robots to drive for us. And I say, I don't trust people to drive for us. I've been to too many of these events with 30,000 people who die in crashes a year in this country. And it's like, if we can reduce that, we are winning. And we may not see it in our lifetime, but I certainly hope so. But that's what I think about, these types of stories that have really impacted me. They're not always the ones that are the positive stories. Behind me are the Emmys that you mentioned. There are 4 of them, and almost all of them are because of something tragic that happened. I renamed my Emmys. I don't say this is the one where journalists in Annapolis were killed. I don't say this is the one where someone on Capitol Hill was shot. I don't say this is the one where I rename them. I have Amelia, Bedelia, Wally Funk, and Cecilia. And when I say those names, I smile because they're strong women. Like I had to reframe some of this so that I myself could have some good come out of the tragedy. And the shiny awards, for me, it means I did my job. You have to reach a certain level of excellence. And it means that during the worst of times, I not only did what I was trained to do, I did it well. And so that's what I think about when I think of awards like that. People get very excited, like, you have Emmys. I'm like, I do. It is sad that I have them because it means something bad happened. But I'm honored that I could tell those people's stories in a way that reached a level of excellence because it means to me. And I may not know it for sure, but in my heart of hearts, I know in some way our coverage led to people helping, the community coming together, someone reaching out to these families who they didn't know before, who are now getting some type of either peace or even maybe financial assistance or something to help them during this really hard part of their life. Not to be a downer or, put a damper on things, but that's what I think about.
No, I mean, I think that's real, and definitely, appreciate you sharing that because I know, going through those, having those experiences can be, I'm sure, very difficult to deal with. The only thing I'd say for me in relation to that, so I served in the Air Force, and I served on the honor guard as a detail for about 6 months. So part of that, we had to lay down, someone's loved one, whether passed away in war or where the case may be, in the line of duty. I've kind of was the same thing. After I was done, then received an award afterwards. I don't know. It's almost hard to. You almost feel kind of a little conflicted about even celebrating it because it's like I know what it was attached to. I mean, I recall having to do a funeral. Probably the first one I did, I was in Pennsylvania. So I'm standing beside the burial plot. I'm just waiting for the family to arrive. And I could see in my peripheral view, there was another funeral happening. And it was like a small, like pink casket. And it just messed me up. So I knew it was a little girl being buried. And I mind you, this is my first one, so I'm trying to hold it together. But it's just going through that, and then for me, so of course, part of the honor guard, we fold the American flag, and give it to the family. I always take a lot of pride in doing that because that's their last piece of their loved one that they'll put on their mantle or what have you to take it home with them as a remembrance of their fallen loved ones. I always, when we practice, I always want to make sure the folds are crisp and tight because, like, look, this is someone, they just lost somebody. But yeah, no, I just want to say, no, thank you, Lindsey, for sharing that because sometimes I think it was good to kind of share that perspective because, a lot of times we do get these, we may have these awards or accolades for things, and they may not always be the best thing or easy to talk about because we know what's behind it, what led us to that, or what it's attached to.
Yeah. And thank you for your service, and thank you for being there for so many families. 6 months, at our age, we're like, oh, 6 months isn't a lot of time, but actually, when you're doing that type of work, that is a very long time. Every day is a long day, not in a bad sense, but more of just this is a very significant moment where you're very present for it and you're giving every ounce that you have of energy and you're just kind of drawing from everything you have to make sure that everything can go as right as possible when everything has went so wrong for a family. So thank you for being there. And it's very interesting because in TV news, it's like, oh, you're on TV. Okay. Yeah. But there's a reason, right? And when we talk about things from a cyber perspective, right? Covering online scams for as long as I did, several years, very rarely was I able to get someone's money back, for example. But I did have a moment where I was able to get $50,000 back for one of our viewers where online scammers, I think there was a combination of like online and actually physical scammers that tried to take her money. And
okay.
It took months, but I was able to get it back, which was great. And it's those types of positive stories that really keep us going because most of the time when an online scammer takes someone's money, it's gone. And those types of series and stories can really kind of bring you down after a while because it's like, oh gosh, I'm doing this to help people, but it doesn't always feel like you're helping. But if you get the word out about a scam and somebody is not scammed by it, they don't usually call the news and say, because I saw your story, I did not fall for this scam. And I hate saying fall for it because it's not your fault. You know what I mean? It's one person against like a whole building full of scammers, you
A
know, that are all
syndicate, yeah.
targeting
Right.
you. Yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of like, you know, we don't know the good that we do when we share these stories. We have no idea. Most people don't reach back out and say, because of yo, or because of this story, or I saw this, and you know, most people don't. You'll hear that every so often throughout life, but I think of so many things that have inspired me, and you know, how often do I actually go back to the journalist or the even someone sharing their story, like, oh, because you said that, I made this change in my life that was really great. But I think a lot of times when we see things in the media, we don't think it's accessible. We don't think those people are accessible. And so we don't reach out. And yet it does make a difference for someone who shares their story on air, and
Right.
it helps someone, for that person to hear that it did. I think it actually does help. Because they're putting themselves out there, and it's not an easy thing to do. And anyone who's shared their life, their story, their tragedy, their triumphs with me,
Mhm.
you know, I've just feel incredibly honored to be that person who can help be the bridge between them wanting to share it and getting it out there to everyone. Um, but yeah, if more people said, "Hey, guess what? You changed my life," I think
Right.
that would go a long way.
I think that'll help with the whole human in the loop aspect that we don't see in cyber and AI, right?
Mm,
You can't train, no matter how good of a cyber practitioner Dr. Joseph and I, will become and continue to be. There's an art to excellence and becoming empathetic, of reaching out and saying, "Hey, good job." It takes a
mm,
lot, and reaching out to the victims, right? The victimology, the folks that mourn, like that's something you can't train. That's the human element, right? And the last part is the encouragement, right? People are going to need that ongoing encouragement, that ongoing sense of excellence and uplifting to say, "Hey, you did a good job." The unsung heroes of cyber could talk to that, because you're right. No one expects to get interviewed for defending defenders, right? So, it's really interesting, because I don't think we're ever going to get to that point where you can train AI. You're
no.
not going to be able to do that at all. I mean, if it would be fake. It would be too synthetic. So let's move on to the next segment, right? During the pandemic, you launched the Coronavirus Alert Desk, which garnered over 23 million views. What motivated you to start that project, and what did you learn about connecting with an audience during this time of crisis?
Yeah. So around December, I was in the newsroom working when almost nobody else was. Right, everyone was like on holiday vacation,
Hmm.
and I saw this little story pop up about there being 6 people sick in China,
Mhm.
and that had died of a like mysterious illness. And I went to our producers and I'm like, I think we should put this on. And I got pushback. They're like, no, it's not even that many, you know, like, because usually we prioritize local news over international news, number one. But there was something about this that I was like, I just seems the fact that I'm getting this type of news at this time in this way, like as a journalist, you have to have these instincts of like, I think there's something more here. And so I was able to get it on air, and I wish I would have kept the clip. I don't have the clip of me putting that on air. And it's one of those things where it's like, I would have loved to have not been right about this, but I saw it coming. And I don't know why I saw it coming, but I knew there was going to be a lockdown way before anyone mentioned a lockdown. I think it was because I was obsessed with like the movie and book Outbreak when I was a kid or something. There was something about, you know what I mean? Like there was something about that. And I remember throughout my career too, sometimes there'd be talk about, is it a pandemic? And I remember being like, what's a pandemic? I'd never heard that word before. And that was earlier on in my career. And I was kind of thinking like, that'll never happen, right? But all of a sudden this happened, and I started to kind of see the writing on the wall, and I was like, I think that this is what's going to happen. And so I actually went and talked with somebody who's part of our corporate team, and he was talking about an idea he had that he had too late. Like, oh, if we would have just done this or this. And I said, well, if you want to get ahead of something, I think it should be coronavirus. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, I think it's going to be big. I think that we should have like a show that focuses on it. So I launched it well before there was a lockdown. It was an hour-long show every single weekday, unscripted. There's nothing, no teleprompter at all. We syndicated it on several platforms. So we had a lot of TV stations across the country. That was part of our parent station that that streamed it on their sites. We had the Facebook pages from a lot of those stations stream it live as well. And then we had at the time an entity called STIRR, STIRR, which was like a streaming television, and it would appear on there. So I don't have the full stats. I only know the single Facebook page stats. So I know a lot more people watched it than that, but 23 million is what is the only numbers I actually have. I don't have the streaming numbers. I've always tried to get those. If somebody has those, please let me know. I'd love to know. Yeah, but I launched it, and what was great about the Facebook aspect of things is that people could ask me questions in real time. And I mean, I didn't have a team. I didn't have like a large team. I borrowed people. So I luckily was able to borrow a couple people from the national team. And because the way that we had to make it work, it was on the back end, there was a lot of extra steps so that it could appear in all these places. It's not like you just hit one button. You have to like actually route it to all these different places and have everything stream at the same time. So that was not an easy task. And then I had someone who would give me a little bit over an hour of their day, who would go through the questions in real time, because I couldn't, at the beginning I was reading them all and it was just too much. We would have upwards of 250,000 live viewers at a time sometimes. So she would go through all those. And honestly, at the very beginning, people were giving me symptoms and asking me if they had COVID, because there were no tests yet. Remember that very beginning where you could not get tested, tests did not exist. The hospitals didn't want you to come in. And so you're at home saying like, what do I have? What do I need to do to protect my family? And I thought to myself, I'm not a doctor. So I started getting doctors on the program live, and they would answer these questions in real time. So it was really just being that conduit between the doctors that had the knowledge and the people who had the questions, and facilitating that. And that's how we started. And I used a lot of mapping programs at the time to let people know how many cases were reported in their counties or their cities, because that would give them some indication too of, is it likely that you're suffering from COVID, or is it likely that it hasn't reached your doorstep yet, and maybe it's a common cold, or maybe it's and so that all would help people too. But funny enough, and I think this happens to all of us, we might be given guidelines. If this happens to you, do XYZ. But the moment it happens to you, you're like, what do I do? Right?
Yeah, it's out the window,
It's out the window. So it's like we were all in need of an expert, of a doctor to say, here's what you do next. And that's something I'm very, very proud of, because even though it got, I ran that show for 2.5 years, and by the end, things are all of a sudden political and people are saying this and that and the other. The bottom line is that when this all started, we didn't have the information that we needed. And this was a way for us to kind of learn together, grow together, and get those pertinent questions answered at a time where it could really make a difference. So I feel really proud of the work that I did. But yeah, that was something that I started because of intuition, really.
So I'm seeing the trend in the coffee data here. So you went from intuition to obsession to pitching to your leaders. And I'm purposely going to hone in on this signal, right? Where did the mindset change from your leaders? Because in the beginning, you said they weren't really on board. Where did they start to see the
different leaders?
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So there was a transition from the original group from obsession to, hey, this thing is full scale and now it's helpful. Okay, got it. I had to dial in on that boss battle for a second.
Let me give you some context on this. So in television news, I mean, I sometimes, forget that we don't all know these TV terms. So when we talk about producers in TV news, there are a couple different kinds of producers, but the ones I were referring to were show producers. Sometimes they're called line producers. And basically, they're the ones that are filling what's called a news hole, right? So the news hole is how much in TV news time you have. If it's a newspaper, it's how much space you have. So they're like, okay, I have an hour-long show, but I have these commercials that have to hit at these times. And I have these segments that have to hit at these times. So I only have this amount of time and this amount of time for actual news, and this amount of time and that amount of time for your, for your tech stuff, Lindsey, or this and that. So I was coming to them and saying, hey, I think we need to add this story to the news part of it. And they're producers. So they're looking at it from like, do I have time in my show for you to mention this? And is this more important than the other news that I already had planned to put in here? And if you have a local story that's big, that's breaking, that's going to take precedence over something that's in China, 6 people. They don't know what it's even called. It could just be a cold, like who knows? Like
Right.
they don't know. They're trying to weigh that. So the pushback was a little bit more on like, why are you trying to put this in our show, Lindsey? We have other things going on. And I was kind of like, but I
Oh my God.
think that this is important for some reason. I think that this is important. And doing news for as long as I have done it, and I was more senior in my last newsroom. So doing news as long as I had done it, I had seen enough patterns and enough stories to be able to read through. You kind of start reading between the lines in some cases where you're like, you don't report on something this way unless there's something more to
Don't
it.
fight me, cite me, right? Like,
Like there's a little something, if it wasn't a big deal, it wouldn't have been reported in this way. But you have to have everything verified before you can put something out. So
Right.
I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what the journalist on the other side of this, might be holding back on because they don't have the verification, right? Like we might have the name of a suspect or we might have right? But if we don't have it verified, we could ruin someone's life, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we hold back until we know for sure. Or if we don't know for sure, we try to tell you like, hey, this is preliminary, or, this could change. People don't always hear that part. They remember the part if you're wrong, and they don't remember the part if you're like, we're not sure, but we think it's important that you have this information now.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah. So that was just a very interesting thing. And producers, they're more colleagues, right? So it's like you have a conversation with them as equals. It's 2 totally different parts of the newsroom. Someone who would be able to kind of tell me more what to do would be like executive producer level. They're more they're on the management level. And then of course our corporate team would be more management level as well. So there's a lot of different layers. It's structured very different from what I'm understanding is a lot of office spaces. And it's funny because when I get into those spaces, the hierarchy to me is like, I don't understand your hierarchy, and most people don't understand our hierarchy.
Right.
So it's just different. So I have to say, oh, it's kind of like this, or it's kind of like that, or your supervisor is like my executive producer, or that type of
The
thing.
mapping, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So we have Lindsey Mastis here on the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Alive Podcast Network. As we get into the back half of our episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe as you're listening in. As we learn a little more about Lindsey and also get more insight on what she likes to do for fun as well. Lindsey, so one of the things that stand out in your career is your ability to demystify complex topics such as AI and emerging technologies. So you've been doing a lot of work as a keynote speaker, consultant. But you also mentioned, so now you're posting new AI and tech content on your YouTube page. So what can listeners, expect to find there, and what truly inspired you to start this new digital project?
Sure. I've always loved technology. I was a big Star Trek fan growing up. I've always been the person in the newsroom pushing the envelope on anything technological. I was putting stories on the air over 10 years ago on augmented reality. I would not be surprised if I was like the first local journalist in the country to have like Bitcoin updates on the news.
Right.
I've always pushed the envelope there, and I see technology in a very positive way. And I've heard other people describe this as well, where it's like Star Trek had a very optimistic look at technology. And a lot of the sci-fi movies that focus on tech, they focus on what could go wrong. But in Star Trek, you saw a lot of what could go right. Not saying there wasn't conflict there. There was conflict every single episode, but it was more about like, how do we better, how do we better the universe? And I loved that. So I think that's what's really driven me. And I have loved visuals my whole life. I thought I was going to be like a black and white photographer. My first 2 jobs were in dark rooms. I luckily didn't go that course because I would not have a job today in news if that were the case. But
Right. Yeah.
I sort of speak in video. So from a YouTube channel, I love my YouTube channel because it's open to everybody. And anyone can watch these things and get inspired. I like to do things that are visual. I like to turn myself into a robot using Nano Banana. I did that the other day. I have where I have gotten into different like simulations. I put on a haptic suit and tried to pilot a Black Hawk, a simulated Black Hawk, which I sucked at. I thought I'd be good at it considering I'd flown in helicopters so many times. I'm never piloting them. but to show how technology is being developed to try to prevent crashes like the Kobe Bryant crash and the
Right.
JFK Jr. crash, right? So can that technology help reduce that type of tragedy? So I was able to show that off. I have more coming. I have a story I'm working on right now where I get into a wind tunnel. And you're going to have to
Okay.
watch to see if I make it to the max speed, which is 115 miles per hour.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just subscribed.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's just say there's going to be more than one attempt and you have to see if I make it. But what's so fascinating about this, and I love history as well, is this wind tunnel was built in 1949. So it was, it was cutting edge for its day. And now with AI, there's more you can do with the data that you're
Right.
getting from it. So I love to just explore anything that I think is fascinating, interesting, can help humanity, might inspire you to get you to the next thing you might want to do. That's what I love. It's like, oh, I saw your video you did on this and it gave me an idea, or I connected with that company,
Right.
or I love those stories where someone's like, I saw it and went for it.
Yeah.
So I love to show the possibilities. It's just really an optimistic type of view. I'm not saying I'm not going to ignore anything that's bad. I'll be like, hey, what's going on here? But like most of the rooms I'm in with people who do AI, they want to solve the world's problems. They don't want to make anything worse. They really want to help. And so that type of mindset, I think, is so important to show. So there's always that, like, how is this better for everybody? Or how can this help you? Or how will this help humanity in the future?
No, I think it's very important, as you mentioned, seeing and listening to these different stories, as you mentioned, can spark some interest to kind of get the brain going. So I think about the next generation that's coming up. I've served as a science fair judge in my local community here, and I see some of the projects that these are like middle schoolers, grade school kids. The stuff that they're doing for their science projects, like, put my science project to shame. Like,
Right?
I mean,
Yes,
they're creating drones, they're coding. I mean, just very highly intelligent kids. So I think it's important that stories like this is out there for people to see, get the ideas from where it's going to be pulled from. I think that's what we need to do, keep discovering, and once we do that, put it out there so that way the next generation can see it, take that baton and take it to that next level.
right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we'll look back at a lot of these things and think like, oh, wow, we thought that was cool at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like when we were coming up, we were researching, or other folks were researching on it. The researching the possibles, what I said. Today, the kids are like super pumped to research the impossible. Like much to your point, we've seen. I'm a huge Star Trek fan too. I do like Star Wars more, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. But there was no conflict in the first generation. It was kind of like they were like the explorers that saved and pioneered other planets. Now the new one is like, well, no, we already knew you guys existed. What else you got? So the kids today, they're very pumped to research the impossible, and it's good to see your stories because they're researching on what you've seen change in your transitions on your channel, transitions into cool stories, and then technology also has obsolescence. So technology 20 years ago might not interest these kids. They're kind of like, we want to get to the drone, or we want to get to, we don't want to just learn Python. We want to do both, right? So
I still get excited when I see DOS.
Yeah.
Right.
I get like,
Emacs terminals. I get excited seeing those too, but they're gonna be in a museum now, probably. Like Emacs terminal was the first one I touched at a real job. Now kids are like, what?
Yep.
So
exactly. Yeah. We have that nostalgia of it as well, but also that, like I knew if I was getting on a DOS computer, it's like, oh wow, this was a big deal because like no one else was getting on computers at the time, so I felt special.
Yeah, right. So Lindsey, it sounds like you dedicated your career to a ton of demystifying topics. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. And it's fascinating to hear that your very first spark in interest in cybersecurity came from an old school newspaper about a teenage hacker. Can you walk us through that moment and what it was about? What about that story that made you think this seems very cool, and rather than this is a bad thing? Sorry.
I don't know what it is about me and hackers, but I just think it's so cool, right? Like to get into something you're not supposed to get into, but for good purposes, right? But yeah, I was a kid. I don't know if I was in elementary school or middle school. I want to guess it was middle school. But I remember seeing like a little newspaper article I might still have it clipped somewhere. I would not be surprised if I still have it. I keep newspaper clippings. So I remember it being like a teenager, older than me, but still like teen. And they got arrested and in trouble. I forgot what they had hacked into, but they were going to be going away for, I think, a couple of years.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, instead of me being like, they did something bad, I was like, wow, how cool. They were able to use a computer to get into something that made someone like, and you're kind of like rebellious teen where you're kind of like, oh, those adults, they just don't want us to have any fun, But yeah, I for some reason thought that's cool. And again, I don't think I was thinking of the criminal aspect of it. I don't think I was thinking of, did this do any hurt or damage? Because I don't know that it wasn't like an online crime. There wasn't, I mean, I shouldn't say online crime. It wasn't a, what do you call it? Like a fraud, it wasn't where they were like stealing money from somebody who couldn't protect themselves or anything. It was like they had just accessed something they weren't supposed to access at, like, I think a government level or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And, there's a lot of those, was it the Pelican Brief or something like, there's a lot of different movies that show like, oh, there might be something hidden. Like, we got to find this and it'll show the truth. And that's how I interpreted it at the time. Not so much this was bad, but like, maybe they're going to uncover the truth. Are UFOs real? Things like that.
They do have the Starship Enterprise somewhere.
All right.
Is Star Trek exist? Am I actually just watching what's happening in space? Yeah. So for some reason, that's why. And so, yeah, I've always kind of been interested, and I wish that I could hack. I wish that I could be like a white hat hacker and I don't have that skill set, but I appreciate that skill set so much when those YouTube videos I see of people doing reverse hacking on the people who are trying to steal money from vulnerable people, and they're able to go in there and delete their victims lists. I'm like, pop the popcorn.
Yeah, Cameron's Payback is that channel. It's definitely something that's trending now, to your point.
I've been watching that for years. I haven't watched any lately, so I don't know what the current trend is, but like years and years ago, I remember watching it and thinking like, that's the kind of thing that I would have loved to have been a part of if I had that skill set. But that's why, I'm really good at, you said, like demystifying complex topics, right? I may not be able to be the one to code or do that hack, but I can definitely be that translator between someone saying like, okay, here's what we did, and me letting people know, okay, here's what they did in a way that we can all understand.
I agree. And there's multiple flavors of that story. So going back a few years, 20 some odd years, there was a book called Hacker Crackdown. It was the first book coming out the middle school and then eventually into college that said the previous generations, teenagers, exploits and things like that. Then I read something called Master's Deception. I recommend everybody read that one, because you're right. Back then, it was just like almost exciting, like, oh my God, they are like, they work at AT&T, they're so good, right? I won't spoil the book, but to your point, back then it was a 5-year offense. Today, the similar offense is 25 years.
Wow.
So we got to realize that, in that same span of 20 plus some odd years now, you could see a teenager get almost their whole adult life sentence. So you're right. It's kind of interesting, demystifies. And then we put this on the show a lot, even with previous guests, because that line still exists between tinkering and ethical hacking.
But the stakes are so much higher now, right? If somebody does hack in for nefarious purposes, there's a lot more damage that they could do versus, gosh, I'm going to age myself here, but I'm talking probably 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you got into some system. There really wasn't that much damage that you could do, depending on what you got into. But for the most part, you weren't going to be able to do that much damage. There wasn't that much online still. I remember one summer, I was like, I'm going to download the internet this summer. So I always have it just in case, I can't get internet or something, because there wasn't that much online at the time.
Right. And it wasn't that many companies. So we're probably close in the same, give or take, like you said, teen to preteen to teenager. But there wasn't as many companies either. It was only like schools, right? Maybe a medical facility.
Government.
Right. Yeah. Now, to your point, like you can say, oh man, the cloud is like this, like I don't want to say wasteland yet, because there are misconfiguration stuff, but it's almost like a pioneer. Like
Yeah.
now, how many different towns can I go through?
You're talking about cloud. We didn't even know what a window was back
Right,
then,
right,
right? And
exactly.
I mean, I thought the coolest thing at the time was like Windows 95. Remember how you could change your color scheme?
Right.
And some kid in class changed everything to black, and they couldn't see anything, like the text, the outlines, the everything. Like they had to reset their whole system because they now they just had like a black screen. Like, and I thought that was so cool at the time. I think that was Windows 95, or was that before Windows 95 came out?
It probably was before, because I'm triggering a trauma of when I first saw the Firefox logo. So remember Netscape? I was old enough to see that blue and black type, like you said. It was like really, like, I won't say drone because it was like high tech back then, but I remember going to a local library and seeing the first Firefox logo color. It's like, oh my god,
Wow.
look at all the color that came out of that. So it's probably around that time, because
Yeah.
it was probably around that time, because there wasn't much color before that.
We were, I don't know about you, I was like hoarding those like AOL free minutes CDs.
I won't unpack this. So the cousin that got me into this was one of those people that would get free internet. I'll pipe it up. It was 20 years. That's how everyone got free internet back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's
like
exactly how hoarding those
100
CDs.
minutes of
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And like, and you didn't want to use it, you're like, this one's real good. I might have to like, I got some leverage if someone wants to trade me for something.
So right, exactly. The libraries especially. So research on my research, there's hopefully there's an attribution here, but if you put your neighbor's phone number in backwards, you got more time. In New York anyway.
How did I even know that? I missed.
Right.
I'm gonna go back in time. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, so that's exactly, and I'm not gonna shout out one of my cousins figured this out. I thought he was like a mastermind, right? Like,
well, I had to go down to my cousin's house to use the internet, right?
Me
like
too.
I couldn't even use it at home. We didn't have it at home.
Exactly.
I went down my cousins lives two houses down. We're Greek. Wow. This is what we do.
Got it.
Key to your success has been your ability to make, complex topics accessible and engaging. However, you previously shared with us that the key to success is defining it for yourself, right? And we often don't recognize it when we achieve it. So I was wondering if you could just elaborate on that. Like, so what does success mean to you, and how have you learned to recognize and elaborate and celebrate, your achievements throughout your career?
Yeah, I can boil it down to one question. Did I help someone today? That's success, right? And I have to separate, we should separate success from profitability. I see so many things in the news right now about money being raised for different companies or people's huge salaries. It's like, that's okay. You're successful at profitability. That's great. Did you help someone today?
And what's the equity on that?
Right. Right. Yeah. So there's so many different ways to look about it. So like I tell myself, it's like, I'm successful. Right. There's a lot of things that I'm doing that are helping people that I feel is, pushing the needle forward. There's so many other questions I could ask myself. Like, am I this? Am I that? Am I whatever? And at the end of the day, when I feel like, okay, yeah, I feel like I was successful, it's when I did something that helped another person. And extra points if it helps more than one.
I think that's received too in cybersecurity, right? Because we're always like the marketeering term is we're always the cost center, right? But then you don't realize like how much of the business we save when we are lucky to get things correct. Because right, the other cheesy saying is the adversary only gets to get correct once, right? So there is a lack of thanklessness and unsung heroship there. But it would be nice to say, well, these are how much folks we've helped in an org. Doesn't matter which org. Just pick a sector, right, and say, hey, this is what we did to help the entire community of practice or the ecosystem. Going back to the nature background, right? Because you're right, it's thankless to keep hearing, cyber costs this much, and we put this platform in place, and blah blah blah. That gets boring. Like we said, like Dr. Joseph said, that's what we started the show for, because we kind of got tired of hearing, the onboarding of some cool solution to this week, or some other company guy. Like, how many people were helped in that same? Because it is a labor of love as well. Like, it's daunting to help the organization, and no one really recognizes that. No one in our industry really recognizes it. To your point, like, why don't you start rewarding like the company? Like, I'm thinking of Office Space. Like, here's some cake for helping 200 people. 200 people go through the higher end of awareness training, or on board to the new MFA solution. Like we helped 1,000 folks do that. It's never that. It's always what comes after onboarding that tool. How many lines of business are successful doing that?
Yeah, and we have to toot our own horn, right? So like if you have the stats, and it's sad that we have to find ways to like make it measurable. Like I don't have a tally of how many people I've helped. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some
and for me it's like a hope. Like I hope I did. But yeah, like if I click on something in an organization, a phishing email, right? And now that's caused a lot of issues for the company, that's going to get noticed. If I got trained and I know better than to click on this weird looking thing that just came in. And a lot of times you don't know, right? Like sometimes it's obvious. Yeah. Most of the time now it's so tricky. But if the training helped me and helped me from doing it, you may not get that as a stat.
You don't. There's an offline. I don't know how to say it. Well, I don't want to. There is a process where you can reach out, and there are tools to reach out to get that feedback at the end of the year. But most companies don't do it. I'll be honest.
And me as an employee, like I wouldn't have. I didn't have time.
Right,
like I wouldn't have time. I do the survey. I'm like, I don't have time.
Survey Monkey. That's the one I was thinking. I didn't want to name names, but that's the one. Like, hey, how did this go? Can you fill out this survey and talk?
I may not remember. I may not want to admit that I'm getting, phishing emails in there and be like, well, I don't want them to think that I'm attracting these. It might be something that I'm afraid to even mention.
Like how many surveys have you completed this year?
Right. Is there something about your job that you have time to do these surveys?
Right. So-and-so filled out all the surveys.
Right.
Give them more work. Right. So I did not think about that, but now that's going to be living in my head rent free.
Yeah.
I work for myself now, so that helps.
I was just going to say, like, I think it's just like acknowledging that, that human element, as you said, how what I've done hasn't helped anyone. And I think it's just that. Yeah. I think a lot of times, of course, the business or the organizational aspect or perspective is, they look at more of the numbers and this and that, but they're not necessarily looking at the actual human behind those numbers,
right?
And how that's affecting them. So sometimes it is nice to kind of be intentional about that and ensure that we are recognizing the people that are helping to get to those numbers, because it does make a difference, and also the health and well-being, I'd say the chemistry or the culture, I'd say, of an organization matters, because if it's not right, then those humans that are helping you get those numbers, they may not stick around much longer.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I'm gonna pipe up. Yes, that is one of the major detractors that make people. You can't retain cyber talent in that point, right? Like if we talk about talent shortages, but if the grass is greener and you see, like, I hate to say it, but like the cyber division is like popping champagne, in another company, and they blog about. So one thing I could say about today, to your point too, Lindsey, is the amount of visibility of how to recognize a world star. Mm-hmm. The company makes it, like I've heard through the rumor mill too, and even in parts of my day job, that cybersecurity first aspect, before the business, before the mission, in some parts of the government and some parts of the private sector, they actually celebrate, hey, we helped 1,000 folks secure MFA in the account. And I said, that can't be real. I honestly thought it wasn't real. I thought it was like a scam. but they celebrate in their engineering blog, their cyber team doing this for the org. And I'm like, well, how many blogs like that exist? Because this must be some new trend, right?
And for organizations to realize too that, like you mentioned, cybersecurity team.
Right.
Right. I always like to point out Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, that's the icon. Classic.
A few more people there. Helping.
Right, that whole situation would have been avoided. Exactly. Samuel Jackson wouldn't have to shut down the park.
Right.
I was he was my favorite character on the original Jurassic Park, and I was just like, nothing better happened to him. And of course,
right.
I was like, why did you do that to me, Jurassic? I was a mess.
Right. So segueing into the lighter note of our show, right? It's fascinating to hear that your go-to is not coffee, but rather a unique tea blend. Can you tell us more about your favorite tea pigs, licorice and peppermint tea?
I brought two things with me today. I have a little.
And what about a specific flavor that helps you power through the day? Sorry.
So this is. They don't know who I am. This is not. I'm not endorsing anything. I'm just saying I found this tea and I love it and I drink it all the time. It was so weird. This grocery store that no longer exists had like just one of these things. Like I never saw this brand before that, never saw it after that. It's like they had delivered like one of the wrong thing or something, and it was on the shelf. And I'm like, I love peppermint and I love licorice. Okay. And I love black licorice, actually. I'm Greek, so it's that kind of tastes like ouzo. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. And I almost didn't buy it. Like I really stood there for a while being like, I don't know what this is. I've never seen it. So I bought it, got it home. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never tasted anything like this. Peppermint licorice, brand called T-Pig. So I always buy it online because I've never seen it in the store since. And then at Trader Joe's, I just found this like pumpkin spice, I don't know how to pronounce rubose. I've only seen it in writing. I've never heard anyone actually say it out loud. Oh my gosh, this is like my fall go-to right now. I would say rubios, which is not right. Rubose. Anyway, I feel like it's close enough. Tea. It's like a meaty tea. Like if you're like really hungry and you don't want to eat anything, grab like a rubose. Yeah.
Well, got like protein in there.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, so like I like these like strange tea blends. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a normal tea drinker.
So what about the pumpkin one makes you not want to eat? Because that's really interesting. Like the doctor just said, is it like supplement in there or what is it?
No, like anytime I have like a rooibos, I don't know how to say this. I should have looked this up ahead of time.
Now I'm gonna get obsessed
I've been saying rubios, but I know it's wrong. I know it's not how to pronounce it. Rooibos. I heard someone say it the other day, and I'm like, what? But no, it's just, to me, it's just like a thicker tea. I'm not saying I'm like, if I'm starving, I'm still going to be hungry, but sometimes I'm kind of like, this is going to hold me over for a while. Like I feel like because sometimes tea can be very light, and it's kind of like, I feel like I just drink a little bit of flavored water. I feel like I'm drinking like something, you know what I mean? When I have a rooibos. I want to see how AI what is AI captioning going to put down for that?
Right. Well, give us 2 links and we'll clue because you're influenced, and we have a lot of tea drinkers on, and we never seen the fringe of tea drinking on the show. So
yeah, I've never liked coffee. I wish I liked coffee, but I never developed the taste for coffee, so I leaned into tea. Oh, the one's just Trader Joe's. Like you got to go now in the fall.
Right, it's not.
They have it.
I was like a limited time thing.
Yeah, the other one's T-Pigs. But as for like links, I got to make sure you guys have there's 2 links that are very important. One is to my YouTube page and the other one is to my Substack. And I can hear my mom in my head being like, don't forget to tell people where they can find you because I will forget. But yeah, my name's unique, right? Lindsey. Last name Mastis, Mastis. I'm the only one in the world.
Yeah, we just subscribed to your YouTube. We'll include
only one in the world.
Thank you. I'm the only one in the world that I know about because most Greek people aren't like, hey, let's name our kid an Irish name with a Greek last name, even though I'm not Irish. There's a story behind that too. I was misnamed.
Misnamed? How did that happen?
My parents named me after Stevie Nicks.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Oh, from Fleetwood Mac? Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac?
No, who is that?
Oh, that's from a music group?
Like a landslide will bring you down. You know, landslide.
Yeah.
I have heard this. Wow.
Yeah. So they
going back.
Yeah. So I'm assuming they must have had the like Buckingham Nicks album or something. Anyway, they read the album wrong and thought that Stevie Nicks was the boy and Lindsey Buckingham was the girl.
Wow.
I was accidentally named after Lindsey Buckingham. So I sometimes joke, like I feel like I'm their like love child or something. Like they should know about me. I came out of their relationships.
Right.
Yeah. So I always joke with my parents. I'm like, I was a surprise. You misnamed me.
Jeez.
So if I want to lay on the guilt trip for something, that's excellent.
Yeah, that's your go-to.
Yes, I'm the only Lindsey Mastis in the world because most people don't make that mistake with their child's name.
So, Lindsey, last question. So you share so much about your fascinating career and your passion for cybersecurity. What about when you're not reporting or demystifying AI? So we heard you're a big Elton John fan. So what is it about his music or his story that you connect with so deeply?
So it's probably my mom was definitely listening to my favorite album, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, while I was in the womb. So I think that made a difference. I've been a lifelong Elton John fan. He's like my happy place. I love writing music myself. I have a Nord grand piano over here, which I love and write a lot of songs on. I wrote one.
Okay.
I was trying to get to bed on time last night, and I'm like, songs coming out. Like I wrote one last night. It was great. Playing a little bit with tempo in it. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if it lives to see another day. But yeah, I have like a different part of my life where I use a different name and I have music and I put music out and things like that. So that's like a fun little like part of myself that most people don't know about. But it's like I got to choose my own name there. It's like
You have anything released
like
on
I'm
like
gonna pick a name I like, you know. So yeah, so that's what I like to do for fun. So yeah, when I'm not doing cybersecurity, I like to write my own music. AI does not write my music for me.
Nice.
I love writing it myself. I wrote my first song in 4th grade. So I've written over 250 songs. I've released 4.
Okay.
So I'll release more in the future, but yeah, I really enjoy that part. It gets me away from all the other parts of my day when I can sit down and do something tactile.
Are you on SoundCloud? Have you released anything on there?
I think I'm on pretty much everything. I have like you have everything go through a distributor. So
Okay.
yeah, I should be on SoundCloud. You can definitely find me on like Spotify, on Bandcamp, on
You got an album.
Tidal, on all of that. Yeah, but you don't find me as Lindsey Mastis. You find me as Amarina Athanas.
Okay, so now we're collecting a small pool of talent. We gotta get the Cyber Coffee Hour playlist. So we had a previous guest, Mim. So now we're gonna connect Mim and you to have a playlist.
Nice. Let's do it. That's great. And surprisingly, none of my songs are about AI. They're about human things.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Nice. As it should.
Nice.
It should.
Yeah.
But Lindsey, it's been a straight honor having you on the show today. We definitely appreciate you coming through. So before we let you go, is there anything you want to share with our listeners?
Sure. If you're YouTube, want to watch me on YouTube, that's great. There's awesome stuff. If you're more of a reader, I have a Substack as well. And again, it's just my name, Lindsey Mastis on Substack. And I say do both because I do like kind of behind the scenes stuff on my Substack. So I might add some more context or how something came about. And then the YouTube is really cool because you get to see it in action. And just as a journalist, that resonates with me because I love the visuals of TV, and my actual degree was in newspaper journalism. So I still get like that writing aspect out as well.
Thank you. So that's a wrap on another episode of the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Live Podcast Network. We hope you enjoyed our chat with Lindsey Mastis. Don't forget, you can find more amazing shows like ours on the Live Podcast Network app. If you'd like to show your support and keep the coffee brewing, you can contribute to the cause by checking out our Linktree and donating to our Buy Me a Coffee platform. A huge thank you to all of our listeners. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our show. So until next time, stay safe out there and keep brewing. All right, that's it. It's a wrap. We out of here. Peace.
See you.